Northwest Middle School to our March 27th Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education meeting. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation. If you will all please rise. I believe we have our flag over here. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, we just pause to thank you for this wonderful day that you have given us, and we thank you for the group assembled together tonight for this meeting. Lord, I ask that you protect and you bless the students, families, and staff here at Northwest Middle School. And Father, during this holy week, soften our hearts. Let us see others with a lens of understanding, kindness, and love. And lastly, Lord, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable and pleasing in your sight. Amen. You may be seated. At this time, it is my pleasure to recognize our principal at Northwest Middle School, who will bring some words of greetings to us. And so we thank you for hosting. We know, Principal Smith, that this is a lot of work also goes into hosting us, and so we are happy to be here. We were just speaking earlier that this board, long time ago, several years ago, we started with our very first retreat here in your media center, and so it was nice to be back. So
thank you so much. Welcome to our board. Thank you for your prayer. Touched my heart there. Welcome to all instructional coaches, Dr. Roseborough, whom I am assigned to, Dr. Simonton, I saw him there, and all instructional superintendents, executive board, parents, guests who are here. I would like, if I have any staff members, if they would stand and be recognized. Ms. Hannah is a principal intern that's assigned to Northwest, doing a fantastic job. Ms. Helms is our instructional facilitator, and Ms. Edwards is our life skills teacher, in addition to our FCAE rep. So I thank them for their support, and once again, I welcome you. Just a little bit about Northwest. It's one of the greatest middle schools in the United States of these Americas that I've been assigned to. I believe that. We serve about 952 little darlings coming from Gibson, Rural Hall, Old Richmond, Old Town, and some from Northwest, some from North Hills. So a lot of work we have to do. We are looking forward to increases in proficiency and also growth. We're very excited this year, but we're looking for something different and special for next school year. We are part of a Verizon grant, one of 3 schools in the district, and we are proud to say that every student at Northwest will have a piece of technology, if you will, in their hands so that we can focus more on differentiation and personalized learning. So very excited about that. As far as staff, we have about 70 staff members here. I can't do this work alone. It takes great staff members that we have here at Northwest to help us educate the whole child, and that's what we're about here. So I welcome you. If you get an opportunity, please drop by at any time. Thank you so much.
at this time, board, we have our agenda before us. I do not believe there are any changes to the agenda. So if not, do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Singletary and second, Mr. Johnson. All in favor? Wonderful. Thank you. So now to the special recognition. I will call on Alex Hodgkins for this recognition.
I'll just turn it around. That'll work. So good evening, Chair Jones, Dr. Emery, and members of the board. It is my distinct honor and pleasure tonight to represent and recognize our Marketing and Communications Department. According to the North Carolina School Public Relations Association, The annual Blue Ribbon Awards for Effective Communication celebrate the best work in multiple categories. Our Marketing and Communications Department was one of only 38 out of more than 100 in the state recognized with some type of Blue Ribbon Award. According to NCSPRA, the awards are a celebration of school public relations departments producing cutting-edge communications and products that support their schools and school systems. Our department was honored with 13 awards. Every entry we sent for consideration was selected. We were only one of only 10 districts that were honored with more than 12 awards across the state. In short, we were awarded 6 gold awards, 6 silver awards, and 1 bronze award. At this time, I would like to invite up Chief Communications Officer, Mr. Brent Campbell, Cable 2 folks, Chris Runge and TJ James, Kim Underwood, Communications Extraordinaire, and Francisco Martinez, Graphic Design.
Okay, so we, Chris, get over here. Yay! So on behalf of the board, I just said we lost all control. We're out here. So thank you so much for what you do. You are, you help our district showcase our kids and all the great things that are happening. You help us craft our message, and that's so important. And so you're always behind the scenes working and making magic happen, and we just appreciate it. And I'm glad we have these times, but we should tell you more how much you really mean to us and how you really communicate our message to the community. And so it's invaluable, and we really do appreciate the work that you do every day. So on behalf of the board, we have certificates. I'm going to hand those to Brent, and then he can give those out. But I know that the board wants to shake your hands and give you hugs, and so if you'll just kind of turn around.
My arms aren't that long. Here you go.
I'll spare you.
That is right.
So that concludes our special recognitions this evening. Next, we will move into public comments on agenda items. Logistically, where are we set up for those? Right back here? Okay. So if you've signed up to speak, if you'll just go to the podium with the microphone. And first, I have Rhonda Mays. We do have a 3-minute timer, and I think everyone can see that. So thank you, Rhonda. Right. Thank you.
I'm a little short. Microphones are not made for short people.
Okay. Good evening, Chairwoman Jones, the board, and Dr. Emery. I am Rhonda Mays, a school social worker here in the district, and I am also the president of Forsyth County Association of Educators. Tonight, I would like to say a few words on Inspire 340 update. From the information that I read online, the evidence of the progress and the proficiency and growth from 2015-16 to 2016-17 shows that we're moving in the right direction, which is very good. I was pleased to see the results. And also from the report, it shows that there's some opportunities for improvement. Tonight, I just want to make certain that we look at one of the opportunities for improvement in particular. Number 3 said teacher retention remains a concern. And I would like for us to go beyond just saying teacher retention and also remember that it's more than just the classroom teacher that makes the difference in the progress that our students make. We need to also look at retention of our teacher assistants, our custodians, our cafeteria workers, our bus drivers, our school counselors, our school psychologists, our parent involvement coordinators, and on and on and on and on. Because we all make a difference in what happens with our students each and every day. So yes, teacher retention is important, but let's not forget about the others that make a difference in the lives of our students each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mays. Alex Bohannon.
I'm a little bit taller. It'll be fine. All right. Good evening. My name is Alex Bohannon. I am a program assistant at the Salvation Army Ken Carlson Boys and Girls Club and a candidate for Winston-Salem-Forsyth County School Board in District 1. I would like to speak to you this evening regarding the update on the social studies audit on the discussion items this evening. The work of Dr. Nash and her team is to be commended because of the importance of this work. But as we look to the future, I want to offer you this perspective. What would our school system look like in terms of its recognition of the value of representation if we committed ourselves to doing the work of ensuring that there is culturally relevant subject matter being taught in all classrooms, regardless of the subject being taught? We all can benefit from diversity, but for students who come from traditionally marginalized and minoritized backgrounds, representation matters. And every student in this system should be able to imagine their place in the world. And after all, you can't be what you can't see. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bohannon. That concludes our speakers on agenda items. And we will move into discussion items. And first up, Inspire 340 update from Dr. Roseborough.
Good evening, Chairwoman Dana Jones, Superintendent Dr. Emery, and board members. It is my pleasure to present to you all a preliminary update regarding Inspire 340. Just to recap, Inspire 340 are schools in our district that have been identified by the federal government as well from the state as being a priority or a focus school. Many of these schools receive additional Title I funding to help support the goals of innovation, revitalization of existing programs for underserved students in our local school district. So as we talk about Inspire 340 this evening, before I talk about the journey to success that we're on, there are lots of people in the audience that are part of Inspire 340 in this endeavor, and I would like to recognize them at this time. If our PICs from Inspire 340, those are our parent involvement coordinators. If you guys will please stand up if you're out there that have been helping us. We also have some of our partners from ESR, and the Winston-Salem Foundation has helped to fund a grant for family mentorship and engagement. So ESR, if you would please stand as well and be recognized. And KBR and the Winston-Salem Foundation have helped the nonprofit organization ESR to help us rally success around family mentorship, which will become a big item across the country for years to come. So we do recognize, as President Mays of NCAE stated, that this is a collaborative effort of wraparound services not just within the school, but beyond the school walls. So as we recap our work of Inspire 340 after this first year of turnaround, we recognize that our journey to success is not going to happen overnight. It is going to be an accumulation of small successes over time that not only can be measured by academic success, but also people success. Each step will build momentum for the district, and each action and decision will build on sustainability of strong results as a whole. The Inspire 340 schools, there are 15 schools in the network, and they are Ashley Academy, Bronson Elementary School, Cook Literacy Model School, Easton Elementary School, Forest Park Elementary School, Gibson Elementary School, Kimberly Park Elementary School, Petrie Elementary School, Carver High School, John F. Kennedy High School, Mineral Springs Middle School, Paisley IB Magnet, Philo Hill Magnet School, Wiley Magnet School, and also Winston-Salem Preparatory Academy. So there are 15 schools in our network currently, and we also provide some technical support to some of our low-performing schools in the district as well. Our organizational chart, Inspire 340, is so much more than teacher retention. It's just a small component. And so tonight we really wanted to walk through what are all the various components of Inspire 340 so that our community, as well as our stakeholders and our employees, have a clear understanding of what Inspire 340 is. Inspire 340 is our strategic turnaround model, and it's about leadership development, teacher recruitment, and retention. And we have a variety of supports for teachers as well as for principals. But our people that are in the trenches, our teacher assistants, our parent involvement coordinators, our cafeteria workers, as well as our custodians, we pride ourselves on bringing them in and building up a future workforce of educators, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through each one of the components. For teacher support, our human capitalist, Judy Jones, Judy, if you would please stand, she is leading the charge of helping us with teacher development and support, but also teacher retention. She spreads the sunshine throughout Inspire 340 schools. And she's a retired principal, but most importantly, she still is a phenomenal educator and a great confidant to many of us in the district. So in yellow are the district initiatives that we have currently for supporting teachers: STAY, Teacher Academy, and our district content coaches in the Instructional Services Department. In the blue are services that Inspire 340 provides. We provide beginning teacher support through the Irreplaceable Institute for BTs 1s and 2s, or any teacher that feels like they need that particular element that we may be covering in the Irreplaceable Institute. We also have the North Carolina Teacher Support Program supporting Ashley Academy, where we have a large number of lateral entry teachers and beginning teachers, but they provide external support outside of the district to the teacher and provide a dedicated mentor so that they are not interfaced with multiple people at one time in the school. And the district has been awarded a Transition to Teach grant, where we will identify TAs of a high caliber to serve in this program to become teachers in Inspire 340 schools. And then we're currently working on a Growing Our Own initiative, where we're currently trying to put some pieces together in hopes that we will secure a grant for our lateral entry teachers so that they will become fully invested in our district, as well as serving in Inspire 340 schools. To your right, for principal support under my leadership, as well as some of my colleagues, we have 3 instructional superintendents, and under Mrs. Gainey's leadership, the new Principal Academy in yellow are all district initiatives. We have a new principal coach, Nora Baker, and we also have Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools Learning Walks, where we go in to assess how well we're doing with our imperatives and district initiatives. In the blue, we currently have help and support from the Department of Public Instruction. The Office of School Transformation Services serve as a team member with me to help with turning around some of the lowest performing schools in the district. The Inspire 340 school quality reviews. Our instructional superintendent team goes out with me to support the schools in conducting quality reviews that are aligned to the indicators in InduStar. So anything that's in InduStar, our priority and focus schools are held accountable for that, and they must align their budgets to the items that they have outlined in their school improvement plans. So far, we have conducted quality reviews in Philo Hill Magnet, Winston-Salem Preparatory Academy, and Petrie Elementary School, and we have one coming up on John F. Kennedy High School. Then the Department of Public Instruction also does the school improvement grant quality reviews. We adopted the quality review format from the SIG model for our priority and focus schools because we don't want our schools to be surprised by the in-depth review of their school improvement plans, but also seeing the school improvement plans in action during the school day. We interview teachers while we are in the school during the quality reviews, and we speak to the leadership team to see how well they are knowledgeable about their turnaround strategies. And the Department of Public Instruction does a comprehensive needs assessment on all of our schools that is more in depth to what we know of as a comprehensive needs assessment, but it is also aligned to the indicators in the school improvement plan. All of these services are aligned. And then we also have 4 schools currently that are receiving education support services. Some of those include Gibson Elementary School, Forest Park Elementary School, and North Hills Elementary School. And the education support team provides technical support to one of our 6 schools, which is our School of Transformation, Ashley Academy. It's the same team that's serving Gibson currently. So this is an overview of some of the budgets and some of the funds that have been allotted to our priority schools. Each priority school has been awarded or allotted anywhere between $100,000 and $200,000 for initiatives. Many of the schools spend their funds on recruitment and performance retention incentives, additional positions. We're currently launching a literacy initiative for independent reading to foster love for reading with American Reading Company, and also any additional professional development that the schools may want. Many of our schools also, if they have the funds to do so, they may also buy additional software, Chromebooks, and also extended learning opportunities such as tutoring. And this is just a brief overview again of how much money each school is getting currently. They also provide transportation to tutoring with their funds as well. And I would just like to highlight Petrie Elementary here, which is our pilot school for the CT3 grant that came before the board earlier this year for innovative strategies to coaching. This is some of the allocations for our 6 schools. Ashley Academy currently is getting over $1 million for their turnaround strategy, which is the transformation model. I'm not quite sure if I can play the video, but I will try, of Ashley Academy's SIG model. as you can see in the transformation model, every initiative that Ashley is currently launching was present in the video. Each SIG school has an infomercial. So they will receive a yearly allocation to help support their major strategies of systems of support, tiered systems of support. They have a SIG coach that oversees the maintenance of the grant, also informs us on how well we're doing with the grant, as well as anything that needs to be changed in the grant. So we do make yearly revisions. We have a full-time family engagement coordinator in addition to our parent involvement coordinator. We have the iReady software, the new teacher support program, American Reading Company, and we're really excited to partner with Jackie Pearson on creating some family home libraries for our students at Ashley Academy. Carver High School, as you can see here, is getting close to almost $2 million for their turnaround strategy of whole school reform, where they are charged with making sure that they partner with a particular agency that has been cleared by the WorkWorks Clearinghouse, the U.S. Department of Education. It is the Institute for Student Achievement. At Carver High School, they are really focused on increasing their math achievement by implementing the Agile Mind Math, Reading and Math, Achieve 3000, and they also have recruitment, retention incentives, and performance incentives for teachers and teacher leaders. And then last but not least is our Kimberly Park Elementary, who is also implementing the whole school reform model. They're getting $655,000, and each year you can see their allocation, and their funds are going to major strategies towards MTSS, having a SIG coach, also implementing positive action, which talks about making sure that we are building children up in positive ways, helping to support them with social and emotional support that will ultimately lead to success academically. They also have allotted funds for additional literacy supplies and materials, additional professional development, recruitment, retention incentives, and performance incentives and teacher leader incentives. This is an overview of some of the incentives that the Inspire 340 schools offer. And teacher assistants are also, and classified staff are also included in this piece as well. And also our reading interventionist. So right now we have been heavily using our recruitment bonuses. That seems to be the most attractive to schools, but they can choose from any of these options. They do not have to put all of these incentives in place, only if funding is available, and the principal picks and chooses which incentive is the best fit for their school. Are there any questions so far? So next we'll talk a little bit about our teacher recruitment and retention efforts that we've started so far. Ms. Jones and I, we have actively recruited many candidates this past school year, either by phone, social media, face-to-face, even in restaurants at times. However we can get them, we will take them and turn them into great teachers, because we believe that we can build great teachers. So Ms. Jones devotes 40% of her time each week focused on pre-screening candidates and courting them through the hiring process so that we don't lose any potential candidates for our schools. We also use the behavior event interview screener, and the screener looks at key patterns in behavior to predict performance. We have a rubric where we ask questions related to achievement, initiative and persistence, monitoring directness, and planning ahead. And so we look at those dimensions to see whether or not we have candidates that are a good fit for our schools. There's one question in particular that we like, is the last question about the belief and learning potential, where we ask candidates to tell us about a time that you had to teach someone something that others may have thought they never would get. So they share with us a story, And so the interview process is more like storytelling where candidates can really highlight their strengths. Things that we've done so far. We've had quarterly meetings with over 80 beginning teachers at the Irreplaceable Institute. I think we even had some teachers not even from Inspire 340 schools that wanted to come to some of our trainings on management, family engagement. Our 3 PICs that are in the audience, Mia Parker, Denise McCoy, and Evelyn Boone, teach the family engagement portion of the Irreplaceable Institute, interpersonal skills, and stress management. We meet quarterly with our school-based leadership teams on MTSS and also getting better, faster tools for observation and feedback, because we believe that it's imperative that we provide our teachers with coaching support, especially in their first year, before thinking about dismissing them or non-renewing them, that we need to be supportive. So we're training our principals on how to give more concise but bite-sized action steps for teachers to get better faster. Judy Jones visits approximately 6 schools a week to support beginning teachers. And we also conduct classroom management workshops for beginning teachers on reserved school days or at staff meetings. We do not have a problem going out on site. If that's what the principal prefers, then we look at our calendars, we strategize, and we go out, and we use the Teach Like a Champion techniques to help train our teachers. So far, we've done 2 modules on maximizing radar, and the other one is called Strong Starts, setting the tone for the day to help students be successful. We also provide coverage for principals and teachers as needed, especially for our priority schools. They may be in multiple situations where they're magnet principals, EC principals, as well as Title I principals, and they need coverage. And so we also go out to make sure that we can provide that coverage as well. Ms. Jones collaborates with the Human Resources Department in developing the Transition to Teach program for teacher assistants. She collaborates with mentor teachers. Inspire 340, our team, we helped HR to develop and deploy a diverse recruitment team that is appealing to our market, and to make sure that we are getting teachers that represent Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools. And then we also collaborate with the Title I office in supporting our principals with budgeting and school turnaround efforts that are aligned to their school improvement plans. We co-sponsored an Inspire 340 Community Day with the local chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha, because many of the families that they served during the community day were coming out of Inspire 340 schools, and so we did a back-to-school drive where the parents could see their principals as well as their assistant principals and other workers from our schools in a community setting. Currently, for recruitment, things that we have currently did just so far as of February, because February is recruitment season, but we would love to start as early as November after Thanksgiving. So we have already visited UNCG Special Education Department and in conjunction and in collaboration with our own Special Education Department. We've served as on the Educator Professional Etiquette Workshop for UNCG. We've served at the PTEC panel regarding beginning teacher support. Ms. Jones did that. We've been to East Carolina, we've been to A&T/UNCG, because the number of teachers going into education, they're down. Universities are starting to partner together. So UNCG and A&T did a joint recruitment. And then for the first time, we were able to secure a booth at the CIAA Career Expo, which, you know, that's the conference that Winston-Salem State is a part of, where we had exposure to 12 colleges and universities. But most importantly, we were able to connect with additional partners. So right now, we're being courted with Girls Who Code, which is a science initiative, Merrill Lynch, as well as the North Carolina Association for Black Accountants, that will like to offer some life experiences to some of our students and some summer enrichment programs. Winston-Salem State University, we served on the principal panel, and we will host for the first time the Winston-Salem State Math and Science Explore Education Career Day, where we will go into the classes of the seniors to recruit. and it is our plan to partner with Dr. Thompson. She doesn't know that yet, but she's in the audience to help us with that endeavor. Then the North Carolina Education Virtual Job Fair, we've participated in that. That's coming up. And then we will also be at the Education Day at Fayetteville State University on April 20th, and also at, we visited Elon University. So far, the schools that have taken advantage of Mrs. Jones' services this year are Ashley, Gibson, Forest Park, Easton, and Petrie. Middle and High, Paisley, Kennedy, Mineral Springs Middle, Wiley, and Winston-Salem Prep. Mrs. Jones sent out a survey to ask schools how did they feel, or how would they describe the service of the human capital specialist so far this year. And 87.5% of them said it was useful, and 37.5% of them said that it's reliable as well as high quality. So her services are very much needed in the district. At the beginning of the school year, we really worked hard, blood, sweat, and tears, to make sure that every school was fully staffed at the beginning of the school year. This is a comparison of our totals from the 2016-2017 school year, where we had 27 vacancies, and then for 2017 to 2018, we were down to 19.4 vacancies. And this was in collaboration with our Human Resources Department, in making sure that we had a focus on our highest need schools filling positions. Our teacher recruitment and retention efforts going forward is that we want to continue to support our schools in developing a positive school culture. So next year, we will have professional development surrounding school culture, because it's very important. We want many of our teachers to work in healthy climates that are supportive, but most importantly, we want our students to come to welcoming and warm environments. We want to continue to support our schools with developing teacher retention plans. We often talk about action plans. We're trying to change the mindset that we have to have staying conversations, and we need to be creating plans around teacher retention for the most effective teachers in the building. We want to continue to have our teacher retention activities in place for our beginning teachers, and then continue our professional development on leadership development through Leverage Leadership, Teach Like a Champion, Getting Better, Faster tools, which are all from the Uncommon Schools framework, because these schools are not common. They are very unique. And then our next strategy is our literacy strategy, because we love literacy, and we really want some positive data when it comes to literacy, and we're really focusing in on that. And so our quote for our literacy strategy is fostering a love for reading every day, and we are doing that through the balanced literacy framework throughout the district, and focusing in on independent reading daily. These are some photographs of our students reading. In any of the 6 Inspire 340 schools, I have never seen kids turned on to independent reading, to the point where they ask, when will I get to read on my own today? So we know that this is going to be a key strategy, and we really feel that this is going to be successful. We receive daily notes from American Reading Company when they come in to schools. They provide us a professional development notes that also shares information with me about how many sessions they did in the school. Was the principal present? Was the instructional facilitator present? What are our goals? We have power goals in every school. Every student has a power goal, because they're all on different levels. And the company helps us to level our students appropriately. So the partnership that we currently have with American Reading Company, and how they fit into the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools Balanced Literacy Framework, is they want to make sure that all of our students have authentic, culturally relevant texts, that they're student-centered, relationship-centered, in that the teacher conferences with 5 individual students a day. So by the end of the week, they should have seen more than 20 students individually during independent reading. It is standard-based. They use thematic units where we incorporate writing, where students are able to connect their writing to their independent reading. and it builds teacher capacities and students own their learning. These are the schools that are currently involved in the ARC implementation. And we have 2 sites, Gibson and Easton, that are using ARC for after-school sites, and you are also familiar that we use it during the summer months. The ARC initiative came from our teachers. Our teachers asked for that and said, is there any way that we can put ARC into our school day, because they absolutely love the product from using it during the summer months. As far as data, I would like to have you focus on number 3, that we do have real-time data, and we're able to track our students' power goals in a system called School Pace. And School Pace works really well with our M-Class data for TRC, in that our teachers are able to look at their TRC data and determine what the needs are, and that helps them to inform their power goals for those particular students, and they're able to progress monitor naturally daily for the students. And it's also a side-by-side professional development for teachers and administrators. Our ARC coaches come in and they sit beside the teachers as they are actually conferencing with students in real time. This is the picture of our Cook Literacy Model School, looking at data in real time from ARC. So our current reality is that in 2017, only 2.8% of our students were considered engaged readers. They were turned off from reading because it wasn't enjoyable. It was more of standards based, and I just have to get through this because that's the subject my teacher is teaching currently. As of March 2018, we have 30% of our students engaged. And at Cook, they have truly established a culture of reading, and we had a sponsor that sponsored every child this year at the book fair so that they wanted a book to take home. We have 1,155 students using the independent reading level assessment. That's to give us a true indication of what their independent levels are so that we can identify those culturally relevant texts that they will enjoy. And then 58% of our students have identified what their power goals are based off of their deficits. Are there any questions about the literacy piece?
Questions, board members? Dr. Roseborough? It was very informative. Thank you. I know that it's a lot going on.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Jones, for your leadership in this as well, and to all of those that you recognize. I know you all play a big part in putting this all together.
Chairwoman Jones, we have one last part.
Oh.
This is it. This is it, I promise.
I thought you paused. I was ready to just.
I did. So the family engagement
Somebody
piece.
should just hit me.
The
Robert.
family engagement piece is our last piece, and we just wanted to share with you, this is very brief, about our family engagement grant that we have received, targeting students at Ashley Academy, Easton, Forest Park, and Peachtree. We have 54 families in this program currently, and they are receiving services on parenting skills, family mentoring from community and faith-based partners, employability, and also obtaining their own educational goals. And then there's a list in the PowerPoint as well of all of the partners that we currently have. And we're going to be partnering with the Housing Authority on looking at and examining how they can support us with our mobility rates. Okay? The end.
This group, I'm sitting right here. No one's nudging me, nothing.
I was looking at you. We were both going.
Okay, so board members, do you have questions of Dr. Roseborough?
Chair, I did look at you, but you just ignored me. But you know what, Dr. Roseborough and Judy, and I think Trish Gainey, and your entire team, when I look at this, and once again, I commend you, a lot of time, a lot of activity, a lot of energy, but do you have any feelings or thoughts about your outcomes? You know, the schools, the results, the proficiency, the growth, all of those things.
Well, this past year, when we saw a little bit of movement, it was small movement, but we had new leadership in many of those schools. But I think now that some of our veteran principals that are in Inspire 340, after talking with our beginning principals and listening to each other about what strategies they used, having that consistency and alignment across the board. When you looked at the strategies, I can monitor iReady, I can go in the system and look at usage reports. I can also look to see how American Reading Company is helping us with maybe some informational text. I can align the unit we did on ecosystems to the quarter test in ecosystems to see whether or not our students are actually making some movement, and did they internalize that from reading independently. And then the school pace data that we're using in where they set their power goals, we're looking at what we can do better with TRC and M-Class. That is definitely a growth opportunity, but if we strengthen writing, then we think that we will see some growth in TRC, which means our kids have got to write every day. But going into the buildings, I can't quantify. I can only show you. Those kids are turned on by reading because they're reading culturally relevant texts that look like them, things that they are interested in, you know, the informational texts, the science and the social studies pieces that they're truly interested in, and to see them sprawled out on the floor or asking the teacher, when is independent reading time, lets me know that there is hope, and hope is not a strategy, but we are going to get some movement. We are confident that we will see some more movement in the area of literacy K-5 in those elementary schools that are doing it well. And now we have some of our middle schools that are piloting with 6th grade. So we do have the middle schools coming on too with the independent reading level assessment inventory. So as I stated before, we've already seen some small gains. 10 out of 15 exceeded or met growth. And I think it's a collaborative effort. It's a combination of things. I think when people feel supported, then that's when turnaround really happens, because they know that we're all pulling for them.
And Dr. Roseborough, I just want to say I want to applaud you for your passion and for your heart and for your drive, because I see it in you. And I go in some of these schools, I do see the drive. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm really glad that you have the parents' involvement. Could you kind of briefly go over what is going on when parents come and give us a little rundown on how many you have and what you're doing?
Well, right now we have 58 families in our ESR program. Our goal was to serve, I believe, over 100. And we were going to use the backpack program if we could help identify some families. We can't release that information, but our PICs can help us with identifying families that can benefit from the ESR services. We believe that if the families do better, then the students are going to do better. So we are trying to have a wraparound service model that also supports the family. Everything we do in the school system is for our students. We don't specialize in adult case management, but we can partner. What we discovered is we had so many agencies that were partnering with our schools. We had to reach out to them and say, let's partner together. Let's align all these services so that we can get some data to say this worked for our families in Inspire 340. So right now we're servicing 58 families through family mentorship, financial pathway planning, home ownership goals, and obtaining their own educational goals through partnerships with Goodwill Industries. You're welcome.
Other comments, questions, board? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to recognize Dr. Nash. She will give us an update on our middle school social studies audit for African American history. Board members, if you would like to see, I believe Dr. Nash made a few tweaks to her presentation, so if you want to see the latest one, you'll need to go to Power Learning It's not the one that's linked on our agenda, and it's loaded in under our agendas for today. Thank you, Dr. Nash.
Good evening, Chairman Jones, Dr. Emery, members of the board. I'm pleased to share with you the results of our middle school social studies audit this evening, looking at the presence of African American history in that 6A curriculum. Just to give you a little background and overview of the work that we've been doing here in the district for about 2 years, Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools has been in conversation with the Winston-Salem Local Organizing Committee and other interested community groups such as the Universalist Unitarian Congregation relative to the teaching of African American history. More specifically, these groups came to us with questions around African American students' achievement, as well as a proposal for making African American history a required course. Of course, we've always had an African American infusion curriculum here in the school district and have been doing that work. So as a result, we looked at American History 1 and 2 for the presence of African American history during 2016-17, because most naturally, looking at American 1 and 2, African American history just fits there. So we audited American 1 and 2 last year and shared those results with members of the board, the superintendent, as well as key instructional staff, and the Winston-Salem Local Organizing Committee, as well as Universalist Unitarian Church. As a result of that high school audit, the recommendation was, of course, we now need to look at middle school. So the purpose of the middle school audit, of course, is to look at social studies teachers in grades 6 through 8 to examine the social studies standards and objectives for the purpose of determining the level and extent of African American history in those 6A courses, as well as examining the content of those middle school lesson plans. So looking at the middle schools that we conducted our observations, you see that we were able to go into most all of the middle schools in the district, and you see those listed there. So the audit itself comprised 2 phases, and phase 1, looking at curriculum and classroom observations, was conducted September 11th through November 17th, with the purpose is in terms of looking at the presence of African American history and the degree and extent of infusion in the middle school social studies curriculum. That'll make more sense as I move on with the presentation. So in looking at phase 1, we were able to observe 85 classrooms, 85 teachers, for a minimum 15-minute observation in all 14 middle schools. Phase 2 comprised the lesson plan review, which was conducted November 20th through December 19th, of course with the purpose being to confirm the presence of African American history content that might have been missed during a 15-minute classroom observation. So phase 2 included 130 middle school teachers were enrolled in the multicultural education website on my haiku page, and as a result of those 130 teachers, I was able to observe 33 teachers' lesson plans through the submissions in haiku. So when we're talking about the degree and extent of infusion, we are using James Banks's multicultural theory of reform, which has 4 levels. The first level being contributions, meaning we're looking at content that solely focuses on heroes, holidays, discrete cultural elements. You all know this as Black History Month, Black History Week, Women's History Month, etc. Our model here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, in terms of the infusion work that we have done, has always been at the additive level. We have added multicultural content to the social studies curriculum, but we have not altered the standards or objectives because we're not able to do that. Those have been established for us by law, by the state. The transformation level is content that takes themes, generalizations, and principles from the curriculum, and we begin to look at them from diverse cultural perspectives. So we get multiple views on the content and the concepts we're studying in the curriculum. And of course, the transformation level is designed to lead students to social action. In other words, as students begin to study these concepts, they begin to make decisions around what they're learning in social studies that relate to equity and equality and social justice, and begin to take action on those concepts. So, just to give you a summary of our findings, relative to the classroom observations, when we look at 6th grade, we observed 27 teachers' classrooms. We were able to observe 11 instances of African American history in those lessons. Keep in mind, these are 15-minute observations still. At 7th grade, we were able to observe 25 teachers' classrooms. We saw 9 instances of African American history, which equates to 36% of these observations. And let me back up. To 6th grade, we saw 41% of those observations with African American history content. Let me say a little bit about 7th grade. The 9 instances of African American history at 7th grade may seem small, but that's because 7th grade focuses solely on Africa. Content about Africa and content about African American history are going to be very different. So that may seem small, but it makes sense relative to the curriculum. When we look at 8th grade, 33 teachers' classrooms were observed. We saw 20 instances of African American history, and 61% of those observations included African American history content. For 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we saw African American history at all levels in terms of contributions, additive. Of course, we would see the additive level because we've added it to our curriculum. We also saw transformation. We saw very little social action. So we did at least get to the transformational level in our observations. So when we're looking at the lesson plan review, the 33 teachers' lessons that I was able to observe equates to about 25% of the middle school social studies teachers at 6th and 7th and 8th grade. So when we look at 6th grade in the lesson planning, 45% of those lessons did include African American history at all levels. And so when we're looking at the 6th grade, 47% of those lessons were at contributions. And of course, naturally, you're going to see the additive level if they're using the curriculum because that's where we entered the curriculum. And we saw 53% in transformation. At 7th grade, 21% of the lessons included African American history. 5% of those lessons were at the contributions level, 50% were at the additive level, and 45% were at transformation. And at the 8th grade level, 24% of the lesson plans included African American history. 4% were at the contributions, 59% at additive, and 37% at transformation. So, in terms of the overall observations and recommendations, what we see is that middle school social studies demonstrated an overall total of 90% of African American history infusion in lesson plans at all 3 grades. So they are infusing at some level. The infusion content varied, as I said earlier, from contributions to additive to transformation. The transformation lessons were largely observed at 6th and 7th grade. The curriculum units at these levels focus specifically on topics related to Africa. That's what makes it transformational, because we're looking directly at Africa at these grades in some form. The African American Infusion curriculum can assist 8th grade with increasing the percentage of transformation levels content there through looking at professional learning team meetings and how we can facilitate that process by reviewing and unpacking the current infusion lessons that have been designed. The infusion lessons that have been designed at the transformational level as well. So that opportunity exists there in terms of helping teachers make their content more transformational. So in terms of moving forward, the goal for us is to work with teachers in the summer of 2018 to revise and enhance the middle school African American Infusion curriculum, to monitor for implementation at the middle school level 2018-19 to ensure that teachers are using the content that has been developed, and looking at elementary in terms of K-5. We need to back up and repeat the same process at the elementary level that was conducted 6-12, as well as American 1 and 2. And so the target date is looking to begin that process sometime in November 2018. So I know that was short. Are there any questions?
Questions, board members of Dr. Nash?
Yes.
First, thank you so much for the extraordinary amount of work you and the people working with you have done.
Yes. May I also thank you for reminding me of that. I need to give some credit to Mrs. Rebecca McKnight and Dr. Amy Nail, because they have participated in auditing these schools, 14 middle schools and 85 teachers. Is quite a task.
It has been
Yes.
an enormous undertaking.
Yes, quite a
and
task.
Really thankful for that.
Yes.
My question was about transformative curriculum.
Yes.
And wondering, is that connected in many ways towards critical, higher level thinking skills
Yes.
and critical thinking skills? And I'm kind of wondering how much of our curriculum in social studies is at that level versus sort of additive.
Yes, yes. Good question. And I'm glad you raised that question, because in the middle of the American 1 and 2 audit and the middle school audit and those 2 school years coming together, the middle school teachers that came in to work with the middle school curriculum made that very observation. The social studies standards that have been established by the state lend themselves well to transformational kinds of activities, lessons, approaches, and thinking. So yes, the social studies curriculum itself can be easily transformational.
So it's really
Yes.
important that we use those possibilities
Yes.
to grow those capacities.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent.
Other questions?
I too want to say thank you, and thank you to the many teachers, because you have done a wonderful job of finding people who have passion about this. Thank you to this board who allocated additional dollars last summer so we could extend the work. We also want to say thank you to Z. Smith Reynolds, who are continuing to help us fund the work going forward. It's very important, and I think we're beginning to see some evidence that it really is helping our kids. So the comment made earlier tonight about I need to see myself and I need to understand is something we've all seen as a good strategy, and I think this is a great step forward. I also wanted the board to know that we also need to thank the LOC that Dr. Nash mentioned. That started out a little uncomfortable, I think, because there were certain requests that we didn't agree on, but out of it has come a real refresh
of the Infusion curriculum, as well as some work we'll be doing here on an 8th grade unit. So we may not come out with a required high school graduation, but we will end up with an 8th grade unit that will be required, and hopefully help us achieve that goal even earlier than we had talked about in those initial discussions. So appreciate you very much.
You're welcome. May I say one thing? Thank you for talking about the literacy development piece, because that is very important. We are beginning to build those libraries now that will allow students to have authentic and culturally relevant text. So what we're doing supports what you're doing with Inspire 340, and I do want to thank Jackie Pearson for helping to put together a pre-K list that we're looking at now. So these things are coming together in terms of the ways we're looking to impact students' achievement.
Again, I want to thank you and congratulate everyone who worked tirelessly on this. And I appreciate all the work that you put in. One of my questions is the social action part of it.
Yes.
We don't see a lot of it just yet in the middle school. What are you hoping that looks like? What is your idea from that?
That's a good question, and I'm glad you raised that because it's directly connected to the 8th grade course. Right now, we have a middle school that is very interested, and I'm going to reveal a few things right now, if that's okay. There is a middle school that is interested, Wiley Middle School is interested in working with United Metropolitan Baptist Church. United Metropolitan Baptist Church owns Silver Hill Cemetery. Silver Hill Cemetery is the African American cemetery for all of those individuals that lived in the Silver Hill community, all of those African Americans who served the families in Buena Vista. And they are buried in Silver Hill. They have no markers. So the Historical Society just gave that site a plaque. And I've been there to see it because I read it in an article and it captured my interest. So I went to see Silver Hill because I knew nothing about the community. So what 8th grade is now doing is writing that service project into the curriculum. So Wiley is interested in taking over the maintenance of that cemetery. So that's the example of the kind of project that we're looking forward to building into the social action. We talked about having some of those students interview some of the members of United Metropolitan because they have the history. So that's the other aspect of that social action project that we're thinking about writing in. Discovered another cemetery in Piney Road. African American families. So we're now trying to see if there's some students, middle school, Kernersville Middle, that might be interested in taking over the maintenance of those grounds, because these grounds are tended lovingly by families and people who know the folk that are buried there, but these people are beginning to die out. So we kind of need people to take oversight. And who better to do that than young people? So it's these kinds of things that we're talking about.
Thank you for sharing that. Great question, Ms. Taylor. Thank you, Dr. Nash.
You're welcome.
Next, I'll recognize Brent Campbell. We'll switch gears a little bit and talk about online promotions.
Okay. Can you guys hear me pretty good? I think I'm pretty loud. So what we're going to talk about is really a procedural change that we would like to make or hope to make over the summer as we head into the next school year. It's not necessarily a policy change. but it's in relation to our request for distribution, our distribution process. And just so you know, currently we allow the distribution of materials from the community. So these are things from community groups, youth organizations, those types of things, perhaps church groups, you name it. And they go out through the Tuesday, Wednesday folders in our elementary schools or middle schools, or perhaps directly to students, sometimes online, but not as many schools do it that way. Most of it do through direct paper distribution to our students. So these are marketing materials for events and opportunities, like I mentioned for you. So our current process right now, our current approval and criteria, our approval criteria and distribution process, this form that you see here, groups have to go online, print this form out, fill it out, mark all their criteria, send it in via email to me, the Marketing and Communications Department. We go through, print it, sign it, make sure if it fits our criteria based on the policy as it stands right now. Then we scan it, email it, send it back to them. Then they print it and have to put it with the materials that they are going to send out. The organization is responsible for printing the copies, for counting the copies, and then for delivering them to the schools and to the mailroom. The mailroom delivers to the schools deliver to the teachers deliver to the kids. So it's quite a long process that we go through. For the average organization, and these are using Kinko's prices, just so you know, but printing a flyer for just one school could cost as much as $30 per every flyer. And some of these flyers are full color, multi-page, glossy, and these folks are spending a good amount of money getting them out there. Most of these groups that we have looking at this year's send to at least 2 schools more often, which is more often or is often more than $500 in flyers. Roughly 50% that we've gotten this year send the flyers to every school, or at least every elementary school. So we're talking about a lot. Just so you know, numbers, this year we've had over 180 distribution requests. We are the only district in the 18-county PTEC, which is the Piedmont Triad Education Consortium group that does it this way. We're the only ones that use paper. In my informal survey, we're the only ones in the state at the NC-SPRA for the North Carolina School PR Association. We're the only ones that do it this way as well. Many of our sister districts use Peach Jar, which is the system that we're talking about, the software. Roughly 30 do in North Carolina and all of the bigs. So Durham, Charlotte, Guilford, all of those folks use the same system. So why Peach Jar? Well, number one, we think it's engagement. It improves and increases parent and community engagement by using the flyers online or on their mobile device. Peach Jar also helps them. They can use the software to build their flyer online and put it on there, so they don't have to build it themselves if they don't want to. They are assigned a coach with Peach Jar, someone that helps walk them through the process. It locates everything in one place for parents so that they can access it over and over again. And then also they have the ability to click on the information and then add instant sign-up. So if you're a youth rec league or something and you want to sign up now, parents could just click on the flyer and do the sign-up right online. It supports communication. It's part of an overall strategy that incorporates the website and our district app, which is what we're trying to go to drive more folks to use the app, because they can get the Power School, they can get the lunch schedules, they can get everything they need in one place. It integrates district and school opportunities and programs and events, and integrates community opportunities as well into that one place. And then it's a streamlined process for us. So the way it would work is I would receive an email about a flyer, and then I could approve it online, and it would email it back to the sender, and it would automatically put it on the school's site or where it needed to go. And then you can approve these and distribute these flyers with one click. And we can access these records very easily, and we can maintain the profiles of the folks that are putting these out there as well. Like I was mentioning, just to show you, this also helps us integrate all of these things together, because these folks would have the ability to put it on the website, to use it for their own social media if they wanted to, puts it on the Peach Jar page, puts it on the mobile app, and then of course the district website as well. So what is the benefit to parents and to the community? Well, the school and the organization information is delivered easily via email, the mobile app, and the website. The flyers are also sorted for them via the school, the PTA, community, whatever it may be. Peach Jar argues that it's increased visibility because it's always accessible versus paper, which, as you know, if you've had a kid, you probably look at it and throw it away. Then when you need it, you don't know where it is. Again, the easy sign-ups and the hyperlinking and the reduced paper usage. So when I put this together just a couple of weeks ago, talking to XCAB about it, we were at about 130 requests. Easter egg season really boosted us through the requests. Roughly 50% again were district-wide. So if you just do the simple math, 54,000 copies, you know, that's a lot of paper that we're going through. So it also means reduced backpack clutter and take-home clutter, and of course an increased environmental awareness as well. So the benefits to the schools in the district. Well, for the schools, they can do unlimited free flyers, newsletters, whatever they would like to post on their site through Peach Jar. There's no cost to them, registrations, whatever it may be that they want to put on there. There's also unlimited free flyers for their support organizations and for any district programs. Peach Jar research also shows that it's improved access to our secondary parents. This is how they communicate, is via, oops, I hit the wrong button, but they benefit, or they communicate via electronic devices. It also meets the preferences of millennial parents because they even move away from the computers and they're going right to their phones for most of their information. Again, the digital approval system via the emails, and then I think this is the biggest one, and this is the staff time savings. Our teachers, our aides, our office staff, even volunteers, they are stuffing folders with multiple papers every week. So it's a lot of work for events that are not our events, and essentially we're acting as a marketing agent for an outside entity. Benefit to those community partners, well, it's continued access to the parents through the email, through the app. Again, it's high quality design that they can do right there on Peach Jar. For them, it's a reduced expense because it eliminates copying and all the delivery costs that they have to do. It allows groups to hyperlink, the ability to share these flyers if they want to on their sites, and then the analytics. They can actually see how well it's been looked at or how well it's been received. The cost for this, right now, if we implement it at the end of this year, before the beginning of next school year, it is free for us. However, if we wait till next school year to try to implement, the cost is $750 a school to try to implement this software. The cost for the users, it's free again for the school and the district and anything that we produce and want to put on there. Community organizations that are advertising an event that charges a fee, whether they're for-profit or not-for-profit, would pay $25 per flyer per school as they wanted to post it. And then, of course, there would be bulk discounts. As you might imagine, they work with groups like the YMCA, the YWCA, those types of things, several of the Little League organizations in other communities already. Folks are familiar with this. Peach Jar will help them customize that cost. And then, of course, if it's a nonprofit, not charging a fee for an event, there's no charge for them to post at all. So the next steps for us would be to commit to implementing Peach Jar throughout the district. We would introduce this to our organizations, our principals, eventually our parents. Next year, I really want to make a push to start using the app more, using the app for school weather notifications, using the app for multiple more things than perhaps we're doing right now. This would be a part of that. We would have to update the website. Parents would get an email weekly instead of a folder. So they would get an email saying, here's your Peach Jar information for that week. We would also modify the communication online, of course, about the flyer approval procedures, and hopefully kind of launch this softly over the summer and then have it in place for next year. Any questions on that? It's kind of quick. Yes?
Thank you, did a great job. How does Peach Jar make its money?
Basically through the organizations that are paying that $25 a fee, because you wouldn't believe a lot of these are events where folks are charging. And our regulations they've seen our distribution guidelines. Our distribution guidelines already don't allow for-profit entities to advertise, for example. But if you are a youth sports organization and you're charging an entry fee, so in turn you're making some kind of money off of that, they charge them the $25.
They have access to data on our students, or?
They only have access to parent email.
Okay. I mean, just obviously, there's been, the news has been full of data, and so my just concern is that our
Correct.
students
Yeah, they have access to parent email, and in every email, the parent has the option to opt out, so they don't get it anymore. They don't have to get an email. They can just keep checking the app if they want to.
No, but is the app mostly to get analytics from the users?
No, our app doesn't have that ability, I don't think. Kevin, am I right in that? It actually integrates into our website, which is Blackboard, and it integrates into the Blackboard app. So it becomes a widget as a part of that application, which we're already using.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions of Brent? I mean, I agree, and I think I remember my son in the middle school years, I think the folder just stayed in the backpack. All that work for no,
Right.
you know, principals, like, yes. I do think if we just are really intentional, very intentional in making sure that our parents understand how to get the information, this will be a shift in our culture instead of having those folders go home, and to make sure that we're not missing something, you know, how we roll that out and message that, especially at those, I would say, I think we're going to try to roll it out now, but especially at the start of next school year, what that looks like at open houses and all those times. But we all tend to have our phones with us, so I think the mobile piece of it is it's really good. So we're good with this, or concerns?
And just one other concern is the assumption that we all have our phones with us is that there are those of us who can afford to spend way too much for a very small computer, and not everybody is in that position.
That was my
And
concern.
I was going to say, there is the ability, so Peach Star does allow, even though the contract says that you can't print any of the flyers out, they do allow a percentage based on the school population that the schools can leave at the front desk
Okay.
for parents to pick up. So if they want to continue that for a limited number of parents based on what their data is, they can certainly do that.
Okay. That was my concern.
Yep.
So we have that. Your concerns that's met, right?
I also think the analytics on this will allow us to look, am I off on that? My understanding was we will have a better idea of who's actually looking, if they go to the app. And
Right.
so if we see places where there's deficits, then that's data we have to go back and address that issue.
And which school's using it, and also it's for the folks who are posting, because they'll know there's folks are not looking at, or they're not interested in reading my information, so it becomes for
So
them.
that will weed out some of those, if
Right.
this is just not productive to spend the time to do the flyer. That makes
Correct.
sense. Good feedback for them as well. So I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you. So we'll shift gears a little bit and talk about our calendars. Thank you, Alex. So board members, we have two things to discuss. First, the 2017-18 calendar amendment, and then we'll talk a little bit around the calendar for 2018-19. And I think everyone we also have a handout in front of us as well.
So good evening again. We do have lots of calendar things up for discussion tonight because there have been lots of changes in our expectations and in our desires and wants. So I'm going to work through this hopefully as briefly as possible so that you have the information that you need, because both of these items are up for action tonight as well. So this year, in the 2017-18 school year, we have used 5 makeup days. And those days are listed both in your board book as well as up on the screen. There are some folks who get a little antsy when you ask them to come back to school after they've gone through graduation weekend. And so there are some seniors out there who are praying that tonight goes well and in their favor. So our recommendation is that the board forgive 2 days at the end of the year, June 12th and June 13th. That does provide a slightly more reasonable high school final exam schedule to allow seniors to be able to take their exams prior to graduation, and to finish up actually 4 days of testing prior to the graduation weekend. And then that Monday, June 11th, becomes an exam makeup day, where most students would probably not end up needing to attend on that day because they would be finished with their testing, which also allows families to honor any vacation plans if they happen to have made them for that week when we were not originally scheduled to be in school. There are some calendar implications in terms of adults. So when we missed March 12th due to inclement weather, that became an optional teacher workday. Most teachers use annual leave time, or they came in and worked on that day, or they can work out with their supervisor to make up that time. There are very few teachers who don't choose one of those 3 options to make up the time from March 12th. Most of those teachers are teachers who were unable to come in and work and who do not have annual leave as an option. Might be first-year teachers that don't have as many also extracurricular activity duties and things that would allow them to make up the time in other ways. So those teachers would be asked to come in on June 20th, but again, that would be a small handful of folks. March 21st is a leave day based on how we've adjusted the calendar. And then April 6th, which was originally a leave day, has become, or would become if you so vote tonight, a break day, which is a day that is on the calendar, but people technically don't get paid for break days. So they're part of the calendar, but they are outside of contract time. So that for teachers, the last day of work would be June 19th. So that's how every time we lose a day, and that day is made up by students, the day has to go someplace for the adults who aren't in school on the day that we take off. Does that make sense? So it becomes very much a domino effect of adjustments. I just wanted you to have the full picture of what that would look like. And so teachers would be asked to come June 18th and 19th. Questions about the 17-18 calendar change? The recommendation is those 2 days, or the 2 days.
Questions, clarification?
2 points I would add. One, 2 points to add. One, because the state allows us hours now instead of days, you are able to do this and you are still well within the parameters of the required hours. I just wanted to say that for people who may not realize it. We're not just, this is within our hours to forgive. The other is that teachers do have the ability, if they have leave of some sort, even though the calendar extends, they can always back their leave into this if they in fact have plans or need to leave before June 18th and 19th.
Thank you for that clarification, Dr. Emery. I'll move on to the 18-19 calendar recommendations. So a few things happening here. The first one is that we tend to have inclement weather in the first 2 weeks of January. Historically speaking, when we come back from winter break, we have bad weather sometime before the end of first semester. This year, we actually lost the last 3 days prior to the end of first semester due to snow issues. And then we had an RS day at the end of third quarter after the students had already been out of class for 3 days for snow. Everybody remember that? Right around the Martin Luther King Jr. So there was all of this time that kids were out. And so the first recommendation is to add an additional inclement weather day on Tuesday, January 22nd, which is currently an RS day in the calendar, so reserved for schools day at the end of the third quarter. So teachers could potentially lose their school day at the end of the third quarter, with the understanding that they probably would have had considerable time off to get caught up on things when the bad weather hits in the first couple of weeks of January. So that's kind of the trade-off there. And that day would fall in the order of inclement weather days to the second day in the rotation after the November 21st, which we kind of affectionately call the Hurricane Day. The second recommendation is that around early release days. So next year we have 4 early release days scheduled on the calendar. We are recommending that we add language to the calendar to convert an early release day to a normal schedule if needed. So this year, March 21st was scheduled to be an early release day. There was weather expected in the morning that was probably going to make travel later in the day more feasible. And we felt because we had an early release day scheduled that we could not offer a delay because our buses can't turn around a delay and an early release in a contracted period of time. And so we closed for March 21st. So we are suggesting that if we know ahead of time that there will be inclement weather on an early release day, that we convert that back to a regular day, cancel the early release schedule, and allow us to make decisions around weather as needed. The third piece is where things get a little interesting. So a couple years ago, the state said that we should have, or we would have in our calendar, 11 holiday days. So we went from 10 to 11. They required us to offer 3 holiday days over winter break. So we used to have 10, everybody with me? We added a 3rd day at winter break that was required, which put us at 11. So if you take 180 school days and add 11, what are we up to? 191, right? Teachers work, teachers are on a calendar of 205 days. So between 191 and 205 is 14. Nobody bothered to point this out to me when I designed the calendar, and I put in 15 work days. So when payroll went to start looking at next year's calendar, what they discovered was that teachers were being asked by the board who approved the calendar that I recommended, were being asked to work 1 day outside of their contract time. So we need to correct that before we get into next year. So this is a correction, suggestion, and recommendation because of an error that I honestly inadvertently made, okay? So here we go, and this is the paper that you had at your place tonight. So at the end of the 3rd quarter, according to the original calendar, we were supposed to have both an RS and an RC day. The recommendation is that the 28th convert to a student day, so that 3rd quarter will have 1 more student day. It's not a bad idea considering we almost always have weather days in 3rd quarter as well. March 29th, which was on the original calendar an RC day, would become an RS day and give teachers that day at the end of the 3rd quarter to work on getting their grades finalized. That means if we give an extra student day in 3rd quarter, we have to take a day away in 4th quarter so that you still end up with 90 days in the semester, which we need to make sure we keep balanced, especially for our high school classes that are taught on a block schedule. So that balance stays an important piece. So that means that June 6th, the Thursday, would become the last student day. So kids would actually get out a day earlier. And then the 7th, that Friday, the Monday and Tuesday, would become RS days as well as maintain their inclement weather day status, which was what they had on the original calendar. And then June 11th would be the, no, I'm sorry, that's actually incorrect. June 12th would be the teacher's last day, which is, I believe, how it is on your, it's correct on your calendar, it's just not correct in my PowerPoint. So June 12th would be the teacher's last day, and that's a leave day. Okay, so that addresses the problem, and it takes away 1 day from the teachers. Teachers on the original calendar were to work until June 13th, and this gets them finished up with their contract on the 12th. Questions about any of these 3? So the addition of an inclement weather day in January, the changing of the early release day, language to allow to conversion to a regular schedule, and then the fix, which fixes the contract day issue. Any other questions? There's another one. from an operations standpoint, it's really about the child nutrition piece, and we would provide lunch on an early release day anyway, and the transportation piece, and making sure that we have adequate time to inform parents. And so I can foresee, and I'm really speaking probably out of turn, but if we can make the call the night before as opposed to the morning of, that would be sufficient time for most folks to be able to make adjustments.
Many days where, oh, we can go late, but it's going to be fine for people to be out in the afternoon. I mean, it's really one of those truly perfect storm situations that it would even be relevant. But I think what you're, in terms of, oh yes, we can have a delayed opening of school, but we're going to send everybody out because we expect it to be fine for them to come home in the afternoon.
No, what I was thinking of is we're going to take an early release day and turn it not an early release day, but make it a full day.
No, exactly, but what I'm saying is that it's very uncommon that we would, oh, okay, now I understand. So you're saying,
So it would be a full day of school as a makeup. They would go the whole time.
right, it's a makeup,
Right,
but
so
we were,
when do you tell parents and staff, this is now not an early release day, we're going to go all day? Because that's what we vote on tonight, if we vote on that. I'm just saying, what would that be? 24-hour turnaround, 48-hour turnaround? When you see that, this is early got to be
right,
We have to take a
Right.
set the expectation out there in explaining with the little asterisk what that really means.
Absolutely, and I think that we can have further discussion about that, that whether it's by 5 o'clock in the morning or whether it's by a certain time the night before, and we can add that language right on the calendar. There's room to do that, and so that would make the communication really clear. We also have an award-winning marketing and communications department. If I could just throw that out there one more time tonight, and who can vary a message on the fly and make sure that communication is made in as timely manner and as clear a manner as possible.
So I think as long as before we get into the summer,
Yeah.
that we could just have that clear, the time that parents start.
Absolutely. Worried about it.
That's right. We can use it. There we go.
Okay, so any other questions around the calendars? Because we do have those both on action items for this evening. Okay, thank you, Alex. Okay, our Building and Grounds Committee report, Ms. Lyda Calvert-Hayes.
Try to make this short and sweet. We had an update on our media center furniture. We are bringing comfortable furniture in and updated designs with kids in mind. And it's really neat furniture. It was a lot of fun seeing the new furniture that is coming in. We already have 5 schools that we have progress going with furniture. We have Walkertown Elementary, Peachtree, and it's amazing because we've even been able to pick out some of the colors. Peachtree has pastel colors, if I'm correct on that. We have Carver, East Forsyth, and we also have Ashley Academy. So I think it's a fun thing to do, and the kids are getting very involved in this. If you haven't seen any of this furniture, you will never sit in a hard chair again. Bean bags, all kinds of fun, soft furniture. The tables are all different, and it's just as neat as it can be. I can't believe that I sat in a wooden chair for 12 years after seeing this furniture. We also talked about modifications concerning the town of Louisville, the Utilities Commission, and Winston-Salem schools on modifications concerning what we talk about all the time, and that is sewer lines. So we didn't miss out on sewer lines again this week. We got modifications on that. We also talked about Robin Hood Road. We have revised some of the drawings for Robin Hood Road, and we're doing that due to our budget. We also talked about paving. We've got paving coming in, contract for Parkland traffic that we will be voting on tonight, and Hamlet Construction will be doing that traffic plan. Work will start in the summer. We also have voting tonight on paving for Southeast Middle School traffic, and that is with Ruston Paving to do that also. So it's been busy. Buildings and Grounds is going hard, and that is the end for me. I'm not going to keep going tonight.
Madam Chairman, I was delighted to hear the possibility of somebody having softer chairs because these are exponentially harder as time passes. Needless to say, Policy Committee met today, and we only had 2 discussion items. One was in relation to a new proposed policy relating to teacher contracts and how we do those. As you know, the state for some time said that we couldn't give more than a 1-year contract. Now we have the ability to offer a 1-year as well as a 4-year contract. So we're still having discussions around what that policy would look like to make sure that it's fair to all of our teachers and gives us the opportunity to recognize their excellence, particularly in those 4-year contract periods. We also had a discussion related to supplemental materials and how materials and organizations are allowed access to our students, and that's something that we will carry over into our next Policy Committee meeting. We only had 1 action item. That was Policy 8120, regarding our school naming responsibility. And basically what we did was we revamped the policy, we revamped the form to make the form easier to understand for those groups, individuals who might, in the public, that might want to help us in naming our new schools and other facilities, whether new construction or honorarium. Other than that, thank you.
Good evening. I'll just tell you a little bit about curriculum last week. We heard from Dr. Nash, who we heard from this evening, about our middle school social studies infusion curriculum audit, and I won't rehash that. She did a great job in curriculum, and then tonight for everyone who was watching and who was here. Thank you, Dr. Nash. We also heard from Dr. Roseborough, who we also heard from tonight, and she did fabulous in talking about the work that she's doing with the Inspire 340 schools. And we also, as part of that, heard from several teachers, which is always the most exciting part of curriculum, to hear from the people who are actually in the trenches. And so we heard some exciting testimonials from teachers, several. And then we also heard an MTSS update. MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered System of Support. And it's a method, a framework of how we encompass all of our groups of students, English language learners, gifted learners, special education learners, and then general education learners. How do we deliver instruction and think about that and design it to be better for all of our kids? There are 3 levels, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. And we have 3 different groups of schools that are currently involved in MTSS and at different levels in the process. So again, as part of that, we heard from some teachers and some administrators about this, the way that MTSS is changing how they deliver instruction in their buildings. Again, very exciting, and we're always welcome those who want to come. It's the 3rd Tuesday of the month, an open public meeting at 4 o'clock, Curriculum Committee.
Thank you for those committee reports. That concludes our discussion items for this evening, Board. We will move into several action items. First, for your consideration, will be the approval of amendment to the 2017-18 calendar. Do I have a motion to approve? Do Ms. Calvert-Hayes and Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Consider approval. Yeah. Oh. David. Consider approval of to amend the 2018-19 calendar. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Motzinger, do I have a second? Mr. Barr, any discussion? All in favor? Consider approval of a memorandum of understanding with the town of Louisville for sewer line serving the middle school on Robin Hood Road. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Singletary, second. Mr. Johnson, any discussion? All in favor? Consider consider approval of surplus properties for on Thurman Street. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Motzinger, second. Ms. Calvert-Hayes, any discussion? Motion. All in favor? Next, consider approval of the award the contract for Hamlet construction for the Parkland High School traffic safety project. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Barr, second. Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes, safety. Next, to consider approval to award the contract to Ruston Paving for the Southeast Middle School traffic project. Who made the motion? Lyda, Ms. Calvert-Hayes, and Ms. Parker. Any discussion? All in favor? That concludes our action items. We move to consent agenda items. We have 2 items on the consent agenda: approval of the meeting minutes for the March 13th, 2018 meeting, and approval of the general personnel report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Singletary, second. Ms. Clark, all in favor? Wonderful. Do we have any speakers signed up?
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.